Now at 6, a live look from our nation's capital. We are just minutes away from President Trump's high-stakes address to a joint session of Congress.
Hundreds of House representatives, senators, their aides, and guests are on hand and filing into the aisles as we await the announcement of President Trump's arrival.
Good evening. I'm Micah Ullman.
And I'm Cher Calvin. Thank you for joining us for this special coverage of the president's address. This is President Trump's first address of his second term to the joint session of Congress.
While we wait for the president to take to the rostrum, let's bring in tonight's guests who will be with us throughout the speech. Political analysts Matt Klink and Jessica Levinson. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Matt, we'll start with you. These things are largely have been in the past somewhat predictable, long on accomplishments from a president, regardless of the party, and short on details as they relate to the vision that president wants to see for this country. What do you expect tonight?
I think you're going to see primarily two lines of messaging from Donald Trump. The first is going to be a list of accomplishments. 43 days of just nonstop actions, 81 executive orders, just stuff happening because we had 4 years of a low-energy president. The other thing is aspiration. He's going to talk about the things that he wants to do. And most important in that is Congress needs to pass a budget resolution so that he can do a process called a reconciliation to pass the extension of his tax cuts. If he doesn't do that, his economic plan goes down in flames.
You know, it's been a dizzying 43 days for a lot of Americans. With all of these executive orders, like you said, over 80, and it seems that every day things are changing. Tonight is a chance for the president to connect to the American people. How do you think he does that with the fast pace, way that his government has gone these last just 43 days?
That's a great question, and I think it's largely what Matt said, which he's going to outline what he wants to do, what he has done, and in those excerpts that were released, I think what we saw is something that in many ways, and that is not distinct to President Trump, sounds very aspirational, very high level. We're back, the energy is back, the momentum's back. There's not a lot of details there. I'm really going to be looking to see how much he truly outlines specifics and what he's going to do and what he wants to do with Congress.
The DOJ has presented a unique sort of stress test on the Constitution. I know you're well aware of this, Jessica, and following it closely. They're burrowing into federal agencies, thousands of cuts to date. If you take a stopwatch to the president's cabinet meeting last week, Elon Musk spoke more than anyone else in the room, with the exception of the president. Yet the administration continues to insist he has no formal position. Lawsuits, a number of them, burrowing in on the notion of Elon Musk. What is his role as it relates to the Appointments Clause of the Constitution? Where do you see that headed?
Towards litigation. And as you said, there's a number of different lawsuits about different executive orders and executive actions, also many related to Elon Musk, of course. And we're basically looking at two steps when it comes to these particular lawsuits. One is, can Elon Musk and or others do this at all? Is this something that somebody within the executive branch can do? Is Elon Musk somebody who has the power to do, or is he simply suggesting we're trying to clarify what his role is? And then, are you trying to accomplish it the right way? A lot of these lawsuits right now are about what judges are using words like blunderbuss approach, whether or not these executive orders are frankly too fast, too broad, too vague.
Elon Musk will be in the chamber tonight, and definitely a focus for not just the president, but also for Democrats. They have certain guests with them tonight. Let's talk about the federal workers that have lost their jobs that will be part of the Democrats' guest list.
It's smart for the Democrats. Look, that if you ask voters, generally speaking, do they want to downsize the federal government? Absolutely, yes. Overwhelmingly popular. And what DOJ is doing is overwhelmingly popular, not Elon Musk. But once you put this is Mary, she lost her job because of the cuts to the Department of the Interior, or this is Bob who lost his job because of cuts to the Department of Defense. Now it becomes, hey, wait, my neighbor's getting hit by this. So very smart play by the Democrats. The Republicans are going to have similar guests that are going to amplify some of Donald Trump's messaging. For example, the vote yesterday in the Senate where all Senate Democrats voted against allowing men to play in women's sports. That's an 80-20 issue that the American public supports, and every Democrat voted against it. That's going to be a huge election issue for the Democrats in 2026.
There will be war veterans, from my understanding, who were let go from the VA that will be guests of members of Congress tonight.
And they have to do it. I mean, you have to humanize this issue. Numbers tell one story, but emotion tells another story. And emotion is what it draws them into the issue even more.
On the other side, we have the First Lady and the guests that are in her box. And one of them will be the family of Compouture, who was killed at the rally where Donald Trump had that assassination attempt. That's one of them. Mark Fogel, the American teacher who was detained in Russia for 3 years, that was just recently released. Tell me what that tells about the story that Donald Trump wants to portray through who the guests are in the First Lady's box.
Well, I think he wants to portray a message of we are safer, we are stronger, I am in charge. And, you know, when it comes to these guests, it's all about trying to humanize, exactly as Matt said, humanize things that feel very vague to people. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Okay, that feels amorphous. It doesn't necessarily affect me, but that person lost their job. Or this person who's a criminal, now they're behind bars. Or this person who's not a criminal, now they're free. All of this, there's a reason why we, for lack of a better way of describing it, trot people out when it comes to the State of the Union. And, you know, everybody, you get your moment where the president points to you, and thank goodness for this proposal, because now you can see it is helping Betty, the school teacher.
We've seen the First Lady arrive in the chamber. We've seen a number of the president's cabinet members, RFK Jr. among them, arriving in the chamber. We are moments away from seeing the president announced again by the House Sergeant at Arms William McFarland. Until that moment, it's a big opportunity for the president and a remarkable political comeback, Matt, when you consider what he's been through in the last 5 years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is someone who lost in a humiliating fashion, and he did as much of that to himself as the voters did to him. And then he spent 4 years with all of the lawsuits, 2 assassination attempts, and ultimately winning convincingly with a mandate. I mean, 89% of all districts in the U.S. had a higher Republican turnout in 2024. Convincing win. So this is a triumph for him. Now he has to build on that momentum and move forward, and he needs Congress to do it. He can't do it all by executive.
Near unanimity, by the way. It's a razor-thin margin, so he's got to get support across the board from Republicans. Do you see it happening?
Right now, they're holding firm. But, you know, it's tough. Every vote they take gets harder, and the shutdown in 2 weeks, or in the 14th, I doubt they're going to get any Democrat votes. So they're going to have to do it all themselves. And there are some Republicans that have never voted for a budget resolution because it doesn't cut the deficit enough.
What do you think the tone of tonight's address is going to be? It's called the renewal for the American dream. I mean, we have heard, you know, rumblings about him wanting a 3rd term for that legislation to be passed, made into law, whatever it might be. But the reality is that this is his last term, and so he's kind of going all for it. Do you feel that this could be a more forceful way, even just 43 days in, to kind of paint a picture of what it's going to look like for the next 4 years?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as Matt said before, like, this is all about being high energy. It's all about, I mean, the last 43 days have been about big, bold, decisive action. The number of executive orders has been truly historic. And of course, we also see that number of executive orders because the margin in Congress is razor thin, and there's a lot of things I think the president thinks he can't do with Congress, so he's trying to do it alone. And as we talked about, that does mean more lawsuits. But in terms of the tone tonight, I think it will be exactly the tone we see from the president on the campaign trail, for instance. It will be extremely high energy. I think he will be as positive as can be. I think his advisors almost certainly have said, don't replay your greatest hits of complaining about the election. Nobody wants to hear about how he won the 2020 election. People want to hear about why these tariffs are not going to hurt him, because as we talked about, the economy, a huge issue in the last election. Yes, he won. Yes, a huge political comeback, but Kamala Harris also lost, and that was largely based on the economy.
International diplomacy, we've seen it front and center in the American conversation the last couple of days. The situation with Ukraine and President Zelensky, the meltdown in the Oval Office. There is word that the president is really pushing for a mineral deal to come to fruition tonight so he could announce it here on the stage. This is in many ways unprecedented. It's naked diplomacy. We're seeing it all out in the open. Look, world leaders have disagreements, and they do it over the phone behind closed doors. We're seeing it play out in real time before the cameras. Is there an opportunity to move the ball down the field tonight with regard to diplomacy?
Absolutely. There's always an opportunity to move the ball, and this is classic art of the deal from Donald Trump. He wants a deal. I mean, look at how the conversation alone has changed. The very fact that you have the UK Prime Minister, President Macron, even Zelensky talking about peace, that didn't happen before Donald Trump was elected. He has changed the conversation. And even in spite of the blow-up that happened between Vance and Trump and Zelensky, Zelensky needs us more than we need to help Ukraine. And he realizes that. He doesn't have leverage, and for Donald Trump, this is all about leverage. But you're right, Micah. Most world leaders do that part behind closed doors, and they make nice in front of the cameras because it makes everybody feel safe and secure. That's not how Donald Trump operates.
No, it's definitely different. The world is different from when he was first president, that's for sure. And now we're seeing, you know, like I said, with the him being in his second term and kind of going for it, it seems that this exchange with Zelensky was really something unprecedented. Let's take a listen.
The president making his way very slowly to the rostrum here in the chamber. You see him addressing members of the United States Supreme Court, members of Congress sitting along the aisle. And by the way, as Matt Dooley notes, they've been staking out those seats since early this morning for that chance, that handshake, and that elusive FaceTime with the President of the United States. And from what they will tell you, it's worth every minute of wait, and it happens throughout the day to be there for this moment as the president enters the chamber. As he continues his approach, Matt, let's talk optics. For the first time, 3 Republicans and 3 men will be up on the lectern since 2018.
It's a powerful moment for Republicans in general. Just that the Democrats haven't had a lot to clap their hands about since Election Day, and they've looked a little slow as the new session has started. And I think that this just builds on that momentum. The Democrats need to get their mojo back. They need something that they can galvanize around, or someone to galvanize around.
And here now the president handing his speech to the vice president and to House Speaker Johnson. And let's listen in as President Donald Trump addresses the joint session of Congress.
Thank you.